You know, this is what we saw from Bank Yugi in this exact matchup at the earlier point in the day. I love that he threw away the removal pieces as Rogue and went for the powerhouse plays. Mankrik, Jandis, Kazakus. That is what I want to see from blitzchung in this stellar opening hand. All right, yeah.
And we do have that Mankrik like you were talking about right here in the opener. I definitely feel like you can do better with this Rogue hand, but since you're going first, don't have the coin flexibility, it might just be the case where you take a hand that definitely gives you a mid-game, if not the explosive power of something like Octobot or early Jandis. And for blitzchung, it seems like he's going with that more conservative mulligan approach.
I cannot wait to read these.
Right, to get things rolling here with the efficient Octobot, it's a great way to get out of the gate here. It's really only the card draw that is missing at that point, but you're not even too sad about that with the high amount of pressure that you could throw down with Mankrik, Kazakus in the next few turns as well.
And it looks like we had a slight graphical error, guys. Well, sorry about that. That's why blitzchung is still able to play the Rogue. I think it was the other way around, where it was TIZS Rogue that got banned away. And we do see now that blitzchung is able to get down his Kazakus. It's not quite curving 3 into 4, but it's still quite powerful here. The Grom's Blood available, I think that's almost certainly the pick. But against this board, Fire Bloom also looks tempting. I want to say it's unlikely that the board still looks like this by the time the 5-cost Golem comes down, though.
I mean, that's kind of why I'm leaning towards King's Blood here. That is the one thing he's missing, is card draw. And especially with Mankrik's wife shuffled into the deck, it incentivizes you even more to start looking for that card draw. I think it's very close.
Oh, but the copy is so good. I guess it depends on what keyword he got in the first one. Really tough decision here to make. And he did take the draw, like you were saying.
That says a lot. I mean, Divine Shield plus copy is like the strongest board presence that you can develop on turn 5, almost in the game, unless you get a premium Jandis in order to dominate even further.
Taking a look at what secrets TIZS is running, he actually only has 1 Horsey and 2 Avenges, 2 Oh My Yogs. The horse has generally been my favorite secret because I feel like it's the biggest pain for people to play around, to the point where they're like, I want to play all my cards, I don't care if you have a 3-4, and they just really underestimate how good that 3-4 is.
So I guess for now, for blitzchung, the game plan should still be don't proc secrets as much as possible here. He can just go Mankrik Dagger, and then he can trade in order to try and play, you know, it's obviously a good trade, and if it's not Avenge, you're very happy. But you do want to be careful.
Yeah, it's quite likely to be Avenge here. I think this trade is giving him a 50-50 for a good Brain Freeze target, and he does get, I think, the preferable outcome, because now he can freeze the 6-6 and the 1-3 is not that big of a threat. And then next turn, his Wicked Stabs are upgraded. Oh My Yog happens to be the other one, though. I guess you should expect that as well, because it is the Galloping that is a 1-of only.
Yeah, this was pretty awkward for blitzchung, because obviously if it had been Galloping Savior, he would have been in a great spot there. But if this is like the worst case scenario, going for a secret proc on this turn is not that bad, because he's still able to keep a decent board presence. He can follow up with the Golem next turn, and he's not just dying, as is often the case when you go for the secret procs.
Problem is, TIZS has a great curve. Whether he goes for the 5-cost Golem or Alderon the next turn, it depends on how good this Golem is. I see a Divine Shield, I take a Divine Shield. Oh, King's Blood probably. The rest are not great. He's already ahead on board.
Yeah, card draw seems pretty premium here for TIZS. Any Libram that he can find is obviously insanely powerful. And Lady Liadrin would be a huge pickup as well.
I was saying it's very unlikely the board looks like it's gonna get hit by Fire Blood 2 turns from now, but it so happens this would have been the perfect Fire Blood board, unfortunately for blitzchung. Not to say it was wrong to take the card draw. TIZS, I suppose, hedging around the possibility of the double 3/3 damage.
I like just playing it here. Like, even if they clear it, it's fine because you get it back. If they don't clear, you had an extra minion on the board anyway. It's totally fine.
Yeah, the alternative was like stab, and then re-dagger, and you're still behind on board and you know they have the golem. So I think blitzchung did have to go for this play, look for something a bit more impactful like the prize plunderers that he needs to swing back the board. For TIZS, I think Truthseeker makes more sense than the golem here. Right now, he doesn't need the card draw anytime soon. It's nice to have it in the back pocket when he needs to start looking for pen flingers. But for now, the Truthseeker means that Hope is accessible next turn. Libram of Justice is super cheap as well. And I wouldn't mind him sacking a 3/3 here just to get rid of the Divine Shield.
Yeah, exactly. Given that this golem is not a huge tempo golem, it's just like a card draw one, you do just want to get the tempo of making your Librams cheaper as soon as possible.
This trade, I was debating in my head whether TIZS had to take it. I was so tempted to ship the 7 face, but honestly, if he just keeps this board position, I think it's reasonable for TIZS to assume his hand gets there. He has Hope, he has Liadrin, he has the golem for more card draw. So as long as he keeps his health total safe, he should have the game in the bag.
Yeah, definitely looking at Ogremancer Brain Freeze on this turn. Field Contact, it's just that little bit too early. Even with Brain Freeze, Wicked Stab, and potentially even Shadow Stepping it just to get it back in hand, you're going to get more value out of it later on, whereas this is just a strong play to get things rolling.
I was wondering if this was maybe worth a Libram of Justice here for TIZS, because he can follow it up with Libram of Hope. Looks like he didn't want to give the 2/2, or he just doesn't find the Ogremancer threatening enough. I think that's also pretty reasonable. There's worlds where you get the Librams for even cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't even be able to clear it, right? He'd just clear the 2/2.
Right. These ones have taunt. I forget.
Right. I mean, it's still a play to consider, I suppose. But in the end, yeah, I do think you just hold on to it for that little bit longer.
Okay, Avenge proccing on the Divine Shield is quite annoying for blitzchung, but he has Swindle to hopefully get him Plunderer. Even at that point, you would have to face tank and play a bunch more cards.
I mean, it kind of felt to me like maybe you should just go Secret Passage here, in all honesty. Like, quiet. Unless you get specifically Prize Plunderer here, I think you're looking like you're in some real trouble.
Yeah.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Stab the shield away, I assume.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
He's really desperately cycling here if he's willing to Shadow Step just an Og Merchant. Makes me think that blitzchung is looking for a lethal out maybe, but he already played one Wicked Stab, so I'm having a hard time seeing it come together.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I am presented in my hand with Field Contact and Secret Passage, I almost always go for Secret Passage first. I just think having that extra mana available really opens up possibilities for you. And obviously, if things had gone differently, it would be a very, very different situation for blitzchung. He'd be able to clear up things much more easily if he'd found the Prize Plunderer. But even then, it did not work out in this instance, and he's paying the price.
To be fair, though, this was very awkward for TIZS to deal with had he not drawn the Penflinger off the top of Hand of the Doll because of that Divine Shield on the Ogremancer. For TIZS, I was wondering if he was possibly just supposed to say Golem to the face and then play one Libram of Hope and say, okay, you can have a 2/2, I have 2 huge threats to deal with. But now that he picked up the Penflinger, the turn becomes so much more straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that this is a very, very big golem to not have gone face on this turn. Like, just starting things off with smack face for 11, I do think was probably worth more than just clearing off an extra 2/1 on the other side, if I'm being honest.
And because the field contact stuck, this is the chance for blitzchung to turn things around. It's going to be pretty difficult to do so, but again, it's all about those prize plunderers, both of them still in the deck. Efficient Octobot, one of them as well. Or is blitzchung just going to go for the throat here?
It's getting close. He still obviously has the Wicked Stab, but it's not going to be upgraded for a couple of extra turns at least.
Oh, that's sweet! That's a great oh my god. Wait, can blitzchung just deal lethal here? No, not quite, but it's so close.
It's very close. Yeah, it's like 2 damage off, I think.
Wait, now he's attacking the minion? Okay, maybe he did some prize plunder calculation that I could not keep up with.
Yeah.
If this deals exactly 9, it makes sense.
I guess play it, step it, play it again, and you can kill it off. Okay, fair enough there. I think that would have been a clear anyway, even if the Penflinger had not ended up there. But I mean, it was probably just a case of I can't do all this maths quick enough. Let's just send it into the minion so it's a guaranteed clear, which I can respect.
I think that is perfectly respectable. Like, I have a hard time conceding when I'm not playing a perfect turn and just taking the hedge turn instead.
Yeah.
You can see again here, blitzchung ends up overdrawing after this, but he still played out with the time he had remaining, I think, close to the best line.
And this has been the dance between Paladin and Rogue since the dawn of Hearthstone. It's the flexibility of Rogue, the ability to adapt your game plan at, you know, at any point in the matchup, constantly playing many cards in a turn, versus, you know, the power of Paladin, but the inflexibility, the fact that you have to just play a big minion each turn, hope that that's enough, and generally Rogue has just preyed on that fact.
blitzchung needs to find a good answer for this 10-10 or just a way to find lethal. Not again.
Potion of Illusion's pretty good, right? You can get yourself another prize plunderer if you can create hand space, that is.
That seems like a tall order at the moment.
Fair enough.
Honestly, oh, okay. So there's Octobot, he can stab face, he can Penflinger. Okay, I guess he's just not gonna Octobot. The 2 remaining cards in the deck are Wand Thief and Prize Plunder, so Prize Plunder should be able to get the job done.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, that Penflinger took way too long to return to the hand. I was wondering what was going on there.
Oh, pretty good, right? Oh wait, the cards are gonna go. Oh wait, there's no cards in his deck. Okay, so it gets guaranteed Font of Power. I guess that's a bit of extra pressure. Maybe it can get him some damage or discovery of spells, which is not bad.
Pretty sick. blitzchung here, obviously, what's on board and in his hand, that's it. TIZS knows that, so he is just looking to outlast, look for some more healing, but he already played Libram of Hope. 1 more in the deck.
And I think even as blitzchung has ripped through his entire deck and is playing a very face-up game plan here, that face-up game plan is just good enough to take the win. No Libram of Hope is going to be playable on this turn, which means I think the paltry effort to clear this board is just not enough.
Oh, the flame! Not like this. I think he has the Libram of Justice here to get rid of the 3 attack minions, even though it's painful. TIZS needs to survive. And at this point, the Wand Thieves are likely to stay on board. Thankfully, the Octobot cannot frenzy any longer at 1 health, but Potion of Illusion on the Wand Thieves is super scary for TIZS. Okay, one of them will stick around.
It's a very valiant effort, and it means that there's not quite lethal on this turn yet, right? Unless I'm miscounting up the Penflinger activations, you can go for 8, 9, or maybe you can actually.
I don't know the right way to go about this, but I am looking at Penflinger with potions, some type of thing like that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, is that lethal? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I mean,
it
gotta
works.
work, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he has 9 mana remaining, so with 5 mana he can play 2 flingers and yes, 3 flingers, including 1 bounce back after the wicked stab. Okay.
Very nice lethal spot from blitzchung to copy the Penflinger and then bounce it back to hand.
Yeah.
And unfortunate for TIZS, I think his game plan in the mid game was very, very on point. He was trying to keep that pressure rolling whilst also cycling through his deck. But blitzchung, again, just showing why this is such a dominant matchup for the Rogue with a very, very nice display.
Yes, I think Rogue, once they hit the field contact, it's very easy for them to out-resource the Paladin to a certain extent. Paladin needs to get a lot of healing to stay in the game. We very nearly saw, for example, Bank Yugi outlast the entire Rogue deck on the other side. Of course, that was a quite different build, but still, it takes a lot to be able to get there to the very end as Paladin. So I'm happy to see blitzchung play, honestly not a perfect game, but I think I can count on one hand the number of people who could have played that game perfectly given your time constraints and the penflinger animations.
Yeah, and that is one of the things I consistently ran into while playing this rogue was animation times. They are a real problem when playing with this deck. You have to ration out your time very, very carefully because penflinger and secret passage are notoriously two of the most devious cards when it comes to how long they take to finish their animations and get back to a playable state. So I do think, you know, as we were saying, just saying, okay, good enough is good enough, and throwing out the penflingers, even if it wasn't perfectly optimal, was the best way to play because, you know, as long as you end up with a guaranteed way to clear the minion there, it was the correct turn.
Prize Plunderer, truly the MVP of Rogue in this meta. Not the watch posts, in my opinion, not Macri. It's just Prize Plunderer. The fact that it can deal so much damage for so cheap and keep drawing you through your deck because of field contact makes Rogue a force to be reckoned with. I honestly thought at the beginning there that it was looking near unwinnable for blitzchung after the perfect Libram curves from TIZS, but hanging in there and realizing when you're playing Rogue, you play with your entire deck, not just what you have in your hand right now, is the mark of a good, aggressive player.
You've just always got to bow your head to blitzchung when it comes to these decks. Even as I was disagreeing with some of his play, in the end, it just looked very, very clean from him, and he does end up going 1-0, getting the rogue out of the way, which is, I suppose, the big difference here is that he clearly believes rogue to be the most powerful deck at the moment, or at least the most dominant against the lineup that both him and TIZS are essentially bringing. And so getting a win with the rogue is nice, but not necessarily the biggest of deals. He still has to overcome the spell mage in order to take the win in this series.
Eric, I can't believe I've gone 3 hours without having seen a mage in Hearthstone. It's been a while, but we are returning to reality now. If anybody has been on ladder for the past couple weeks, this is just pretty much all you're going to see. Spell Mage, Deck of Lunacy, not actually a Forge in the Barrens card, but it is a Forge in the Barrens card.
It's an honorary Baron's card, yeah. And this is really what made the shift to this deck being so good, is that, you know, Lunacy is a deck that clearly has a lot of inherent randomness with what cards you're going to be getting. And that was very much the case before we made the rotation to core set. But now, if you look at the actual cards that you are getting at the different mana cost slots, at 10 mana, which is what your 7 cost cards are going to get turned into, there are only 2 cards in Survival of the Fittest and Nagrand Slam. If you reduce your 7 cost cards down to 6, and then turn them into 9 cost spells with Lunacy, then there's only 1 spell that it can be in Libram of Hope, which is a very powerful card to get indeed. So there's an incredible amount of consistency with the mage once you do get Deck of Lunacy played. And in addition to that, it's like the majority of the 6 cost cards draw you a bunch of your reduced cards. The majority of 7 cost cards clear the board and develop your own stuff on your side of the board. You could just go on and on and on as to why it is the most dominant deck in the game right now.
It's just so uncanny how at the same mana break point, there's a lot of spells that have similar effects to each other. They're just from different classes, but you can very easily say, I have a strong chance of drawing card draw if I turn my 3 cost card into 6 cost card, because at that slot, we have Skull of Gul'dan, famously Hand of Gul'dan. We have Sprint now in the core set as 6 mana, and Nourish. So the deck is just so inconsistently consistent in that you kind of know what it's going to do. It's still quite a bit of luck involved because a lot of those effects are more efficient than others. More so, I mean, especially so in the mirror, which specific card you get comes into play big time. But when it comes to Mage versus other decks, I think as long as you get one of the good spells, it tends to be a great spell already.
Yeah, vast majority of the time it is. The other side for the Druid, though, it's definitely the kind of deck that I think can get underneath all of that insane power level from the Mage, because they can just play out these big minions at the start of the game. Mage's removal in terms of the early game boards is kind of lacking in a lot of ways. They don't have early ways to clear the board necessarily in terms of wide plays, but they do have a few tricks up their sleeve. Devolving Missiles can be devastatingly strong against like buffed up Gibberlings or Soul of the Forest boards. They of course have Combustion a lot of the time, which is very strong to clear things up as well. But TIZS has gone for a slightly less heavy on removal version of the deck. He doesn't have the Combustion in there, so he's very much relying on hitting those power cards at the start of the game, which so far he has not done.
True. No Lunacy, no Incanters flow.
Oh, no.
Sorry. There's a Why did I jinx it? Oh, okay, wait. But blitzchung has a Gibberling start. The Gibberling start, if you will. Like, you might just hero power with your extra 2 mana. It's fine. Just get all the minions and buff them up. Yeah, this is the hand. This is the one that beats Mage.
All right,
Maybe.
fine.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, you go all in right out the gate. Obviously, this is 9 damage a turn, which is going to kill them very quickly, especially with the hero power factored in to maybe speed up that clock by 1 turn. But if the hand is perfect, Mage can still win this game. As absurd as it may seem to say, a single board sweep here could just pull things out of the bag for TIZS.
And he has access to board sweeps because 2 cost cards could be Starfall and Standard, I don't know. Let's say just 1 cost cards could be Holy Nova now. Oh my god. Okay, or you just rip the skull off the top immediately. Of course. Runic. Okay, there's your clear. Why did I even bother to doubt? Infusion for free.
The one time that we have seen Mage today, the one time, and it goes Lunacy Skull, Runic Carvings, plus a buff as well. Just ban this deck. You do not want to play against it. You think you do, but you don't.
Okay, I mean, obviously, this looks completely unfair, and it is when you draw this. But it's not to say that you should absolutely only always ban Mage. It's not even just in APAC where we're seeing that philosophy of the Korean players who are banning Paladin. In Americas, we have very brave players such as Fled who are leaving up Mage and targeting it altogether.
Brave is one way to put it, I suppose. I guess Fled is actually having success. I think he went 2-0 on his first day.
He did.
Oh my god.
Did the frame rate just die for you as well for a few seconds there, Derek?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that might have been your brain shutting down as this Mage game develops, because TIZS sees Blitzchung's Glowfly Swarm and raises him a Glowfly Swarm beforehand. Blitzchung doesn't even want to see this up, and yeah, that's just going to be it. 1 game apiece. Mage doing exactly what we expected Mage would do there, and what I'm sure you all have been having to deal with for days on end now on ladder.
Yes, and I know my point seems dumber and dumber the more I try to defend it, but it's not always that they land the Lunacy that early, and it's definitely not always that the first card they draw post-Lunacy is Skull, and it's definitely not always that the discounted spells they get off the Skull immediately deal with your opponent's 9 damage on board and leave you with 1 minion with a bunch of health that can value trade the rest of their minions. Definitely not always. It only feels like always because it happens like that on ladder a lot. And so I'm not gonna knock people who don't ban Mage too hard. There is, you know, thinking to what they're going for, but at the same time, like, if you lose to anything like this even once, and you just ban it without even looking at the numbers, that's completely justified as well.
I mean, I think the place to zoom in there on those clips wasn't Blitzchung's face, it was just zoom right in on the bottom right to just prompt him to concede that game, because that was truly over. Thankfully, we don't have to watch the Mage again for the rest of the series. It is out of the way, given that this is Conquest in our first 2 weeks of play. So we're moving instead over to the two classes that are shared between our two competitors here in the Druid and the Paladin. Very similar for the most part, you know, very minute differences between the different decks. And I hope for blitzchung he doesn't feel like he used up his good luck on the card draw there, because that was a premium starting hand that you were getting.
It was.
But obviously not quite strong enough to fight back against that lunacy.
Derek, I had so much hope. I was like, is this the hand? Is this the hand?
Nope.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the hand. It'll never be the hand. And I just am kind of reflecting on how I spent 2 whole minutes talking over a montage of lunacy, completely destroying its opponents while I tried to defend people who leave the deck up.
Well, here we go. The standard, the most standard of lists that you can bring here for TIZS on the Token Druid. Nothing really to say, just a couple of extra new cards that have come in the most recent expansion in order to bolster the deck somewhat in Pride's Fury and Thorngrowth Sentries, you know, kind of replacing what was it Dreamway Guardians did beforehand in order to essentially just make a couple of extra guys at the start of the game. Not the most dominant card in the deck, but nicely complements the rest of the game plan if you don't find yourself those insane Glowfly gibbling starting hands.
I definitely think so. And because of the nature of how card draw and buff cards interplays with this deck, and the fact that you have Lightning Bloom and Innervate for flexibility, Token Druid has a lot more forward thinking to do than it did in previous metas, in my opinion. There's a lot of situations where you're like, I have an okay turn right now, but is it worth it to delay by 1 turn so I get the insane turn where the buffs happen at the same time as the board development? And I think you do have certain hands that automatically win as Druid, but there's definitely a lot of decisions to be made, especially against Paladin, that can also just go pretty aggressive early on.
And that is exactly what this Paladin is going to have to do here. We are seeing Cariel roam instead of Kazakus, which, having played a lot of the Kazakus build myself, is a change that I do think is very, very welcome in this build of the deck. Even if you're not necessarily getting much of a discount on your holy spells, just having a 4-mana 4/3 Divine Shield Rush is good. That's just a strong play on turn 4, as opposed to a very weak play on turn 4, which is what Kazakus affords you. But as you said correctly, I think it is the aggression and it is the secrets primarily that really bolster this matchup against the Druid specifically, which is obviously what blitzchung is going to be looking for.
Yeah, and blitzchung being one of the few players running the Guff, it's strange to me that he's one of the few players running Cariel, because I thought that would be the more popular choice, at least for APAC, that tends to favor, you know, tempo, aggression, but I tend to think people really like Kazakus because it provides kind of an X factor of the deck where you can't quite predict what it'll give you. Sometimes it gets you out of a really bad pinch of a situation, whereas the rest of the deck is generally predictable.
That's very true. Just having a bit of extra wildcard factor is definitely worth a lot in any Hearthstone deck, but I just generally go with raw power. You know, I'm like a subtle in that I like a list that has a lot of 2-ops. Just play the best cards and hope that that is enough to get you there for the win. But to start things off here for blitzchung, he's got himself a mighty strong starting hand. We are talking 1-drop Hand Over Dial plus the sword, Coin Truthseeker, everything coming together here really nicely.
Not to mention, these are premium 1-drops as well. They have high health on them, which you always want to see against Token Druid so that they can take as many value trades as possible. blitzchung gonna go ahead and coin out both of the 1-drops because he has Hand of a Doll for follow-up. I actually really like this line. This hand doesn't look like it needs to go Coin Truthseeker to win. I think trying to outpace the Token Druid might be the way to go.
I hadn't even considered this line, but now that I see it, I think I like it. Like, obviously a Gibbling Explosion on the next turn is kind of unlikely given that they're not on the coin, which is, I think, the main reason why you would go for coin double 1-drop. But I guess the next few turns are just looking so strong. You're going to draw a bunch of cards, get a bunch of secrets out of your deck as well. So I'm very willing to go along with this line from blitzchung. I don't hate it at all. Oh.
To me, this is the first question, though. Do you want the secrets on board right away? blitzchung says yes. And this is a turn where if Druid potentially has Lightning Bloom, then you're very happy that you try and get a chance at Oh My Yogg, something like that. But not gonna lie, the Hand of a Doll for immediately more damage was tempting.
Oh My Yogg got turned into... Okay, backstab there. It looked like the Lunar Eclipse was still playable at that point. Oh yeah, it's 0 mana, so you can still play that. Go with the Power of the Wild as well. It's not bad at all, and the backstab, I suppose, does help to squishy up this board a little bit.
Right. I also didn't think of it at the time, but the other reason for maybe going Hand of Adal is if they have something like the Lunar Eclipse clear for blitzchung. Thankfully, he still has 1 minion that managed to stick around. Otherwise, Hand of Adal was really terrible in this situation.
Yeah, I do think the main thing for blitzchung here is, which is why I like the Sword of the Fallen on 2 so much, is that this matchup is not about aggroing down the Druid, it's about having a dominant enough board presence to the point where you can clear their waves of threats, which Hand of Adal, you know, playing it immediately, it doesn't necessarily make it more easy to clear the board. As you were saying, it makes you more survivable to the Lunar Eclipse, but thinning out your deck of the secrets, guaranteeing yourself good draws by going for the Sword of the Fallen definitely feels more worth it to me.
Certainly. Okay, that's, I would say, a decent outcome because he gets rid of the other minion. Yes, one of his Gibberlings now dies to the sword, but it looked like TIZS was going to trade one anyway. His Glowfly is doing a whole load of nothing next turn, so TIZS really needs to hit Fungal Fortunes. Okay.
And I think you just stop now, right? You don't need to activate the carrier, oh sorry, the savior, which you know it to be on this turn.
Sorry, hasn't he only played 1 card this turn so far? Or
2, right? Guess the Weight and
right.
the Adorable Infestation.
Correct. And now we get to see Cariel doing quite some work here.
Pretty good, actually, yeah. Reducing the Avenge as the one holy secret. Hand of Adal as well. Libram of Hope. It's all very, very clean. This means now the Aldor Truthseeker into Libram of Hope is a curve that's possible. This is the power of Cariel coming in big time here.
Just acting in place of an Aldor Attendant when you don't hit it to make the curve as smooth as possible. TIZS, however, picks up a way to get rid of the Cariel. Still doesn't activate the Galloping, but I just don't think he has enough stuff to outpace.
It doesn't look that way, does it? It's going to have to be one massive board. I very much like that TIZS is biding his time. He's not proccing the secrets when he doesn't have to, not playing unnecessary cards here, saving everything for its peak performance. And who knows, maybe that one Glowfly Swarm will be enough to win this board. If it does survive, double Pride's Fury with the Solar Eclipse could be enough to win the game, but my lord, is it going to have to be clutch.
Right. I definitely spoke too soon in saying TIZS doesn't have enough stuff. He did have the Fungal Fortunes, and here Lightning Bloom top deck could be very significant. Just if he's able to play Glowfly with either Soul or Pride on the same turn, this could be an entirely different story. But until that happens, I'm very interested in blitzchung just getting the 8/8 on board here and trying to kill TIZS before any big development can happen.
I actually kind of like the idea of going for Northwatch Commander here, because the 8/8 to kill him is good, obviously, to try and get the pressure going. But I think just having more minions on the board is more important. Like, even if you get Knight of Anointment or something really small here, you just jam Hand of Adal on it, and all of a sudden, it's a real threat that can clear off a 2/2.
Fair. I guess I might be caster visioning in terms of TIZ's hand right now, because I see this as a hand that is still waiting to go for the big pop-off turn. But from blitzchung's perspective, it could very well be, okay, Glowfly almost certainly there. If there's Lightning Bloom, almost certainly gonna be wide on the board as well. So he is going for bit wider, loses 2 attack in terms of stats, not a huge difference.
Like, this whole turn just screams that blitzchung knows exactly what is going on in this matchup. He buffs a minion that can't even attack this turn with Hand of Adal because it can kill a 2/2 or a 3/3 on the following turn. I really, really like his approach to this matchup here. And he gets the reward here, right? He gets to trade off 3 of the minions, heal up his Aldor Truthseeker, I guess, after a value trade with the Libram of Hope. It's very cool.
And he gets to fling face for 1. Never forget about that.
Why not?
Do you ever fling a minion here? I guess there's too many for it to matter. Okay, but for TIZS, this is his first ray of hope in the game. He has still a significant board presence that's stuck, and he gets to play, oh wow, a lot of cards, a lot of effects. So you can go Solar Pride,
Yeah.
and then Innervate Soul. That's probably not even good enough, is it? Because of the 8/8.
That's really the difficult spot here. And also the fact that you have to be afraid of...
Oh my
Is there
god.
another Oh My Yog? Yeah, that one in hand. Oh no, wait, it costs 0, right? So you know that the one in hand is Avenge, because only that could be played for 0, right? So he actually knows that it's not Oh My Yog in this situation.
Oh, or did he?
I mean, he should do.
Okay, yeah. Okay, it's very likely that this is still just going to be his play, whether or not he knew it wasn't Oh My God, because this just gets the most stats, or sorry, the most minions buffed by the Pride's Fury.
Yeah.
Doesn't get them to go tall enough, but even if they were a bit taller, they were not able to single-handedly trade down the 8/8, so I think this is fine.
Wow.
Ooh, the face tank 8.
Probably worth it. Otherwise, that was just gobbling up a 6/6 very, very easily.
Right. And TIZS kind of realizes his board is near immortal at this point. It has to be Libram of Justice. And it's not there for blitzchung.
It's not, but I mean, near immortal and immortal are a very big difference here, because blitzchung can keep the pressure coming on the board. Libram of Wisdom, it's not Libram of Hope, as he was hoping for, in order to get another big minion on the board, but you know, it's still a way to replay these pen flingers, get the damage through over and over again, and take some nicer trades. This is closer than it looks still, I think.
So he can kill the 5/1 and VT of 5/6, assuming the Libram of Wisdom goes on his Aldor Attendant. And at that point, you would have to leave the pen flinger on the board. And there's still going to be a 6/6 and 2 3/7s left. So I hesitate to call this safe for blitzchung. Certainly not as bad as I initially thought, especially since TIZS doesn't have reach. He has just more board stability. But the fact that blitzchung is trading because he himself doesn't have the reach means that I think the tides are in TIZS' favor.
100%, yeah. I mean, like, if he picks up what would need to be Arbor up on this turn, the game just ends on the spot. Because, I mean, it might even just be lethal. I haven't counted up with Solar Eclipse plus Arbor up. But, well, we're going to find out right now.
Oh! Well, he knows this is... sorry, was that secret played this turn?
It was played off the top, yeah. So he does not know what this secret is, but he will now find out that it was not Oh My Yog, which is the only one that matters, because now I think, I mean, counting up or not, that has to be lethal now.
Indeed. And even if blitzchung had traded one minion away instead of going face, I think he still would have died, if not that turn, 2 turns later, and I think it was absolutely correct for blitzchung to just pen flinger away 1 or 2 threats and then send the rest face so that he still had a win condition, because there was no way he was ever gonna come back on board against that much health stats gained from Pride's Fury.
Really, really liked the way that both players were approaching that matchup, though. blitzchung's willingness to go wide on board, even if it came at the downside of less damage to face, less development onto the board. Like, I mean, we can argue with how close he got to clearing, you know, to killing his opponent at the end there, that maybe he should have gone for the Libram of Hope, but I don't think he would have got in that situation in the first place if he hadn't gone wide with the rest of his minions. And then on the other side for TIZS, I really liked his willingness to just hold back, bide his time, turn after turn, keep drawing cards, and realize that one single Glowfly Swarm will be enough to carry him to a victory, which it was.
It's true, the face of Token Druid is maybe not so different from just the previous meta, but the very first iterations of Token Druids were like, I have this one hand that goes wide on 1 turn. If you have the AoE, okay, GG, next game. This Druid version now has so much card draw and so many redundant board building effects, and also the flexibility to build 2 layers of a board on top of each other, or if you want, separate them out into 2 separate layers, means that you can finagle your board into a state where it's most difficult for your opponent to deal with. And I really think the deck has potential, especially since on ladder, it already feels like it's a lot weaker than we're seeing it here in this tournament.
Definitely feels that way. We are going to get to see blitzchung's Druid, though, if he's going to go on to win this series, as it is only TIZS' Paladin left that he has to take a win with. I think up against the Paladin, you know, I do still think, sorry, up against the Druid, I do probably still slightly favor the Paladin, just its ability to get that pressure down at the start. It has to be a very impressive development from the Druid to be able to overcome that. But even if we factor that in, we are, of course, then going to just a mirror of the Paladin. So I think TIZS obviously in a very good spot here, as it would be a big win for him. You know, getting off to a start of the first week where he's able to go through to the quarterfinals, it will start to overcome that sort of you know, just lack of flair that we've seen with his performance thus far in Grandmasters. I want to see a big push from him to get through all the way to the playoffs and maybe even the World Championships later on.
And I really wonder if this will cause blitzchung to reevaluate his strategy, because it seemed like prior to today he was banning mage. Of course, TIZS' lineup could be just different from everybody blitzchung had faced prior, but the fact that he had gone for rogue this time, I wonder what was the tipping point.
And again, in this Paladin matchup, we see that struggle in the first few turns that is going to be so crucial here, because TIZS, if he can get himself a 3 health 1 drop off of first day at school, is looking very, very good. And he does actually manage to get that to secure the Hand of Adal on the following turn. You've got to be looking at that, right, as your premium 1 drop.
Absolutely. You do get punished by Hand of Adal on the other side, but I think you take those risks. If it's not exactly that, you are so far ahead.
Yeah, it had to be exactly that. And with a heavy mulligan from blitzchung, it was unlikely that he would have it on the other side.
However, blitzchung can buff his minion to not die to Hand of Adal. It's definitely not good, especially since his follow-up is Northwatch as Spider Tank, but I think you take what you can get in this situation. You can also make the argument for just hero power, because next turn is hero power plus Libram. Okay.
Oh, it sure is slow, isn't it? He's wondering about trading now, because if you were going to go Libram of Wisdom, you definitely would not trade. Otherwise, the Hand of Adal would then kill your Aldor Attendant. But in this instance, I guess he's just going for the full pass to play around the higher damage buff off the Frenzy. Interesting.
Ah, I didn't even think about that.
That was not a missed attack. Make no mistake. I'm not sure if it was correct, but it wasn't strictly wrong at all. The real problem is, of course, that it still has 4 attack here, right? So it's still able to take out the Northwatch commander on the following turn. I guess if there was specifically Libram of Wisdom, then it wouldn't have been able to do so, which was the benefit of blitzchung's play.
And for blitzchung to try and pick this apart, he needs to have 2 minions remain on his side of the board at the end of any one given turn, so that he can take advantage of the cascading Librams of Wisdom. So we could see something like Libram and hero power again this turn and just send it face. It's really not pretty, but I'm struggling to see alternate lines.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, at the very least, it damages the Warsong Envoy a little bit, so that it can, you know, potentially be taken out next turn if there's no 1 damage effect to kill off the remaining 1/1 recruit.
Oh, I think he just goes face with this, and you kind of say you take this trade. Yeah, okay. So if TIZS takes the trade, then blitzchung has. I mean, TIZS also needs to have a way to kill the other recruit. And if TIZS doesn't take the trade, blitzchung can kill off his 2/2 and then done the buffs on the other one. But so happens that TIZS has yet another Penflinger imposter in the Ethereal Og Merchant.
Kind of looks like the guy, actually, doesn't it? Like, he's kind of blue. He's got like a little visor. Maybe Maybe I'm in too deep at this point. I don't even know anymore. I mean, we've seen difficult choices even in these first few turns for blitzchung. He's definitely not had an easy path here, but TIZS, I mean, it's just been plain sailing. You just keep on doing what you're doing here. Easy peasy. You go coin 5 into 5 into Libram of Hope.
Oh. Okay, for blitzchung there, I wonder if he would have rather tested for Omayog with his own Omayog.
Yeah.
But maybe it's either he was thinking, I'm not going to play around it at this point, I am so far behind, I want both Librams on this guy. Or he was in a situation where I'm so far behind that I want Omayog to do something crazy for me. And, you know, if we saw something like Rogue Hero Power here, even Mage to a certain extent, that would have been pretty cool. But this Priest Hero Power doing less than nothing. Actively bad.
Was there any worse than that? Like, even Hunter does a bit of damage to the opponent's face.
Right,
This does absolutely nothing.
I feel like blitzchung might have even... Like, there's an argument for just using it for no usage whatsoever, just to get one usage out of the way, because you would rather have the guy hero power. TIZS is just not going to leave you any damaged minions to get value off of the priest hero power with.
I guess if they both cost 0, then you can just go on... given that 5 mana was spoken for, you can just go hero power on 5 and 6. And then if you need 6, it will refresh and flip over again.
True. Oh, the things we can nitpick when people are falling behind. Okay, blitzchung, Signs of Life. He can kill one Elder Truthseeker. He can draw off of the Northwatch Commander. And play Omayog, I guess.
Yeah, there are Signs of Life. Good lord, are they faint. This is not looking good for blitzchung, especially with just Libram of Hope able to come down on the following turn. Secrets in order to bolster that already devastatingly strong board presence as well. And of course to test for the Yogg.
So in terms of which of these TIZS finds most expendable, I actually feel like the Omayog might be more valuable to him than the Avenge, so I like starting with the Avenge.
Yep, agreed. No rush minions in the deck, unfortunately. No
Cariel.
Yeah, no Cariel, no Broom in this build either.
But no problem either, because he is very safe to just go for Libram of Hope. Unfortunately, there's no way to proc the horse, then take the value trade, then go for the Libram of Hope. But it's not a big problem. He can just trade this way, heal, kill the 4-1, and be very well and truly ahead.
Yeah, it's going to take some mighty, impressive plays to pull this one back for blitzchung. I think if Libram of Hope came off the top, it wouldn't even be playable, right? Oh no, sorry, the Truthseeker has been played. So there's some small signs of hope, I suppose, if he can draw his way into a Libram of Hope to stabilize. Maybe first day of school into Sigil Runner to draw a card. I'm getting desperate already just for some way to try and draw into the good cards.
That's already better than what I was coming up with. And if you get Sigil Runner, maybe you get Libram of Justice at some point. Okay, this is not bad, not bad. That's stall.
Was that in the hand? Oh no, it's in the deck, right? It's not in the hand.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not Mind Vision. My bad.
And if we know anything about the Paladin mirror, stall can do wonders sometimes, but it generally would require you to have discounted the Librams far more than blitzchung has done so far, so I'm struggling to see the out.
I mean, his line was actually better than what I was thinking, to be honest, of getting the Sigil Runner, because this way he gets another Libram of Hope, so there's still 2 left in his deck. So I guess I wasn't even shooting high enough there in terms of how good this turn could be for blitzchung. Still not great, of course. He's taking a lot of damage, but it's definitely salvageable now. Very salvageable.
One small consolation for blitzchung is TIZS Kazakus is yet another inactive one we've seen today.
Yep.
But TIZS, of course, knows that all 3 secrets are in place, so he simply has to not play 3 cards and doesn't even need to proc the Yogg if he doesn't want to.
This is not what we stood for.
In fact, he can just go all face. I think why even bother procking the Avenge? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the kind of the one window, the the one vulnerability of Paladin Secrets is they don't stop you from just smacking face each turn. Like with Noble Sacrifice gone, you can't go Noble Sacrifice, Avenge, Redemption, as it was in the old days with Secret Paladin. As that is now 2 Libram of Hopes, one after the other, with a potential follow-up of Lady Liadrin as well. This is starting to come together.
The problem is the follow-up of Liadrin means you're not playing the Brim of Hope on that turn, so I think that is where your time kind of runs out. If TIZS has dealt with both 8/8s and your next follow-up is just a 4/6 that, yes, you can stick a bunch of Librams of Wisdom onto it, but if you're too low a health total at that point, might not be enough. But obviously the Libram of Hopes on their own are good. They are giving blitzchung time to find his Libram of Justice.
And that time is so terribly important.
Panflinger got a lot of work done. And for blitzchung, I was honestly looking at whether he could clear the 8/8, but doing it this way, isolating the board instead for TIZS has been... It's worked out much better for blitzchung.
Oh, with Commander still playable, I think it would have turned into yet another Paladin Secret there. Okay, you didn't get the one you wanted, but we'll take it, I suppose.
Yeah. But TIZS here, I could see this as a window for him to just play his own Liadrin so that he can also chain hopes. The Divine Shield on this really sucks though, so maybe it's this plus Sword of the Fallen and you give them the horse.
Oh, everything just feels bad though here. Like, you can proc the horse. I agree that Lady Liadrin has to wait here. It's just too soon. It would only be like Hand of Adul and Libram of Hope, right? That you're even getting back at all, which is just not enough value, I think, to win the game.
May the light.
Can at least take a VT on the 3/4. Avenge goes off, but I think he's got enough health on his taunt guy that you're okay with this thing having Avenge on it. Ooh.
That is playable with Libram of Hope as well, right? It would reduce it by 1 and then you can...
Oh, but it's the Penflinger that you really want to get down with the Carriel, right? So that it's for the clean 5 damage. If I'm blitzchung, I really just want to send this 12 face. I don't know.
I mean, you can trade in the Libram of Hope into the Libram of Hope and then go Carriel, trade and Libram your own.
I'm Omayog.
Yeah.
Very...
It's tough. It's really tough.
I think this might be a just... Yeah, Carriel Penflinger turn? I don't know.
But then you lose your Penflinger. Are you really willing to do that?
You have a 12-11. That's going face again. I don't know.
I must move quickly.
Okay, fair enough. I'm on board for this line.
Yeah, big deal. 12 to the face. Blitzchung is saying if you don't have another Libram of... Oh, never mind. He trades. Now I'm confused.
Trade.
Now I'm very confused.
Yeah. Like, obviously, Yogg was the really scary bit, right? That's why he didn't just want to go jam
Right.
Libram of Hope on this turn.
But the trade... I mean, if Blitzchung is making the trade, there's obviously got to be a big, good reason for it. I am just struggling to think of it at the moment.
Rush on the 5-drop's pretty good. Deal 3 damage to 2 minions is, you know, it could go wrong if it hits the 12-5 like that.
Unless he wants to face tank this 12 and also deal with the Carriel, I do not think that's worth it.
I mean...
Okay.
It's worth considering, I think. Like, he has Libram of Hope. As long as he doesn't die on this turn, which is still unlikely at 7 health.
Yeah.
Move quickly.
He just saw a Penflinger get left naked on the board, so
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
you can make that assumption. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Just leaving it up instead. I mean, that health was scary. It was a bold play to go for that line for sure.
Okay, the good news for Blitzchung is he now has a tester for Oh My Yogg. He can play the Libram of Hope, and That's the news. It wasn't Omayog to begin with. Is it Liadrin here and then Hope later?
Well, the problem is obviously that if you go Hope this turn and Liadrin next turn, you have a full turn where you're not playing a Libram of Hope, and there might be a lot more pressure on the following turns, which is the reason to go for Liadrin here.
It's true. I mean, this is one of the turns, the few turns where you can feel reasonable about not healing or playing a taunt and still staying alive. But there's something to be said for the additional value of that other hope you get from Liadrin. It's quickly looking like this is turning into a battle of who has more Librams of Hope at the end of the day.
And also how many you can play in a turn. Like, it's not just about getting them, it's about needing to get them played and onto the board, most importantly. And I mean, really the big benefit for blitzchung here, even though it's less value, he's taking a more aggressive stance. He's positioning himself as the aggressor in the matchup rather than, you know, faffing about with, maybe I can't play a Libram of Hope to defend myself. He's not defending at all. He's just going for the throat.
And TIZS picks up Penflinger, which is a very, very good draw for this situation. He needed a way to pick apart these small increments of damage from blitzchung and also just a way to fill out his mana. Penflinger ticks all of those boxes. And it is very quickly becoming a battle of the 8/8s. Unable to clear this turn though, which is quite unfortunate for TIZS.
You can bump the Divine Shield though, which is, I think, pretty necessary in this instance to stop you know, an ugly value trade happening on the other side. Or, yeah, Penflinger away, same thing really.
Yeah, the alternative was hero powering there and just using the Penflinger damage for next turn because he could have taken the bump. But I think next turn is earmarked for Liadrin, so might as well just keep your 1/1 around.
That Libram of Judgment is pretty spicy. And now, yeah, Libram of Wisdom on the 1/3. You're going to get it back anyway, so you may as well just cash it in for free. And then get another one back to hand that you can play on the 8/8 afterwards. Whew.
I think blitzchung had it perfectly counted how many spells he would get by that point, because otherwise you're supposed to then trade the 2/4 and then play another Libram and then Liadrin, but he already knew he had the maximum.
Well, he's definitely going to be sad he doesn't have a Penflinger ready to go with this hand, that's for sure. But I guess you will take what you can get in this instance. You're not sad about it.
Did he miss out on one more Libram of Hope? He got a single one from Liadrin. I can't remember if he played too many.
Oh, maybe, yeah. That might have been a slight miscalculation, actually. Yeah, I wonder if the one extra would have made the difference. I'm not sure. I didn't keep exact count.
In any case, again, no Barovs in the list these days, so it's fine to just build up one big wall and expect that they need to go through it the hard way in the mirror. And for TIZS, he can just Liadrin to get a bunch of Librams back and trade his Kazakus. Alternatively, the Knight, I don't know how many... Wait, sorry, did he not play any Wisdoms this whole game?
No, yeah, none. Yeah, it's just the Adults and the Librams of Hope, which is a pretty big deal, it's got to be said. It means he has to go super aggressive.
This draw, though... Oh my goodness. That's huge. Now TIZS can push 7 to the face without having to face tank the 16.
Oh, it's going to be so close here because that Libram is huge to have found, but it's a big deal that it's being played because these Librams of Hope are going to be so big from blitzchung every single turn. Even if it's only one of them being played here, just anything he plays just has plus a million from here on in.
But is it enough against TIZS, who has the Penflinger still and 2 more Librams of Hope?
I don't know.
I struggle to see it. And there's so many different iterations of what sizes of 2 minions you're supposed to build here. And if you have really good hand tracking knowledge, you should be able to parse out exactly how many flings they can get in a single turn. And so you want to go whatever damage they have on board plus those flings and have one more health than that with the number of the Rooms of Wisdoms you put on the 8/8.
I mean, that is really difficult to keep track of,
Yes.
I've got to be honest. Like, I can appreciate the idea of trying to put some of the health on the 1/1 instead, because you do want to have something on board the following turn that you can immediately put the buffs on and then attack face. But I think realistically, no matter what you do, this is probably just going to get cleaned up with pen flingers plus 11 attack on the board.
Yeah, it's just too much. Especially since Hand of a Doll can augment the attack to 13. But there's no reason not to play all the Librams here, make TIZ's life as difficult as possible while blitzchung continues to wait for Kazakus at this point? I don't even know. The Adrians on both sides have been expended already.
Yeah, pen flinger, not really good enough. That is what you were looking for. Second Libram of Justice 2 turns in a row, I think might just be too much here. You activate the horse first with Galloping Savior. Libram to get rid of all of it. Penflinger can clear everything up. Just absurdly strong. And I think the final nail in the coffin for blitzchung in this series.
Really hard fought. And these Paladin games with the Penflingers can look a bit redundant towards the end, but make no mistake, the decisions in the early game decide the outcome big time here. With TIZ's play of the 1-drop that early on and deciding to continuously buff it, or rather blitzchung not having the Hand of a Doll to take that one value trade at the beginning had so many implications for the late game.
Yeah, not even worrying about Penflinger being left on the board. Who cares realistically at this point?
The victory is yours.
That's going to be it.
It's gonna do it.
TIZ taking the victory 3-1. I liked a lot of what I saw from blitzchung as always. I think these aggressive style decks work very, very nicely for his playstyle. He spotted a couple of things that I wasn't initially looking at that I think were very smart in seeing them in their actuality, in hindsight. But for TIZ, he kind of got the good hands and he played them pretty well. His games weren't all too complicated, to be honest, apart from the Druid game, which I think he did pilot very well. Like, the Mage, easiest win of his life. The Druid, in the end, just getting, you know, very well played to get the big glow fight. And then this Paladin as well, it just played more big stuff in the end.
I will say, though, that I was a fan of Cariol in these situations. It didn't quite end up getting a win for blitzchung against either the Paladin Mirror or the Druid, but it just seemed to be a lot smoother to play in the curve than Kazakus, which often ends up getting delayed because of the Libram discounts. And I am very excited to see how the decks will evolve in the future, especially since I strongly suspect Penflinger will be not quite so good in the near future.
A reasonable guess, I think.